I have here with me Commissioner for Solid Minerals. I want to find out what's happening in that particular ministry and how Perseverance can key in to ensure that they are properly positioned. So, yeah, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Beatrice.
All right, so I want you to give us a brief update on what is actually happening in your ministry.
Okay. Well, for this time around, I mean, you know what we've been up to.
Yeah.
In the last administration. This time, what we've basically been concentrating with is we're driving investment into Cross River in the solid mineral sector.
Okay.
I think sometime last year we had a stakeholders engagement where the Minister of State for Solid Minerals visited us. Okay. And with that stakeholders engagement, it brought us closer to the people. Before now, there's always been the misconception about the fact that states have no business in solid minerals. But the coming of the minister helped us a great deal in stabilizing and having much more better relationship with the stakeholders, okay. And of course the operators in the sector. Is that the first thing we did, which we are trying to put infrastructures together now, was to put up law number 5, which is the Quarry Mining and Mining law, which is assented to May last year.
Okay.
And we've had a couple of stakeholders engagement on the need to show off government revenue in the solid mineral sector. And as we speak, working with the Internal Revenue Service, we're rolling out. We're trying to put infrastructures in place to enable us, roll out. We've concluded with those infrastructures, and now we're rolling out. All of that will show off the revenue of the state. The solid mineral sector for Cross River State, up until the time the governor created this ministry, wasn't contributing much, to the IGR in the state. But of course, with what we've done in the last couple of years, and of course with law number 5, and of course having obtained the buy-in of all of the solid mineral sector, the stakeholders in the sector, we're sure that our IGR will be shut up. Yeah. And also, one of the things which I talked about was having to get investment in the sector. Before now, you had a situation where people concentrated more on, limestone and quarry materials, talking about what we call now local parlance chippings.
Yeah.
But now we have investors who are also interested in investing in other sectors. For instance, we have investors who are now interested in barite. We have investors who are interested in not just having concession for lead, but also setting up plants in the state. Except that we've met with a few challenges, with communities. In Osina, for instance, there's an investor who was prepared to work on the road for the community, provide infrastructure, build a plant for the processing of lead. But till now, the communities prefer to carry out illegal mining, because that's what they feel that they're profiting from it.
Okay. And
so they're encouraging illegal mining in that community. Unfortunately, that is not going to help us, because His Excellency has always emphasized on the need to create jobs for the people. And the only way to create jobs is by encouraging investors. If you have an investor who has a big concession, he's ready to pay compensation to community, he's ready to do his EIA, he's ready to sign a CDA, which the community has been stalling, he's ready to provide infrastructure, and he's ready to set up a plant right in Cross River, right in Yala, where all of these things can be processed. And in that sector, in the lead sector, apart from, there are so many things that you can do with lead. Even the residue can be used for other purposes. So But that will not deter us. Just yesterday, I got a team of investors who are interested in investing again in another sector, of our solid mineral. The more investment we can attract to this sector, organized investment, the more benefit our people will reap, from it. Because for every of those investment, when people come up and set up shop, it creates jobs. Yeah. It changes the lifestyle of the people. And as you know, the solid mineral sector in Cross River State is still largely untapped. And His Excellency has given us a marching order to ensure that investors are accommodated, investors are received, very well. Currently in Utuma, we're talking with the community to be able to fast track the setup of the cement plant by Ibetu. Okay. That is taking good shape. His Excellency is talking to a team of investors who are interested in setting up a plant, for the production of other materials that are very useful apart from cement, in the state. So, driving investment across in the solid mineral sector, setting up the structure to make sure that the IGR that comes from that sector is organized and contributes to the overall development of our states. Those are the kind of things that we've been trying to do in this sector.
All right, so you mentioned the fact that the particular community that, an investor wanted to set up a plant and they prefer illegal mining. In a situation like that, what's supposed to be the final action from Cross River State government on it? Doesn't the government have the right to say this can happen and take a practical decision on it?
Well, quite frankly, the government is doing quite a lot. Okay. We're doing a lot. We tried, His Excellency's approach has always been to dialogue with the communities, get their buy-in, try to ensure that they are carried along. We've had so much engagement with them, but there are still people who are bent on truncating, the peace deal that we've had over the years. Currently, the federal government is taking steps, and the state government, will support those steps, okay, to ensure that the community leaders and everybody, is called to order. All right. You can't be above the law.
Certainly.
And I tell you that if the community wants to continue on the path of breaking the law, the state government will act. Already the federal government is taking very critical steps to act. The government of Cross River State has still been trying to say, okay, please give us some time. But this has gone on for too long. As a matter of fact, this has gone on for like 5 years. There comes a time where government will have to step back and say, you know what, we are government, we must act. Yeah. And I hope that the community will not allow it to get to that, that
level. Inside Cross River, keeping you abreast with all the happenings in the Governor Ben Ayade's led administration. Inside Cross River, showing on this station.
If you're just joining us, the program is Inside Cross River. We have here with us the Commissioner for Solid Mineral Cross River State, Right Honorable George Obenechi. All right, so let's talk about your experience so far. 5 years down the line, right? You were the Commissioner for Solid Minerals in the first administration, and in the second phase of the administration, you are still the Commissioner for Solid Minerals. So let's tell us about your personal experience pioneering, a brand new ministry. How was that for you? Can you just tell us your experience so far in a nutshell?
Well, one of the things that I find very interesting about, this government, especially our leader, the governor, is that the governor has been doing very unusual things. Yeah. I remember our first day, when we were to be sworn in and they invited us for a meeting in the Executive Council chambers. Surprisingly, the governor started asking everybody what they wanted. What portfolio do you want? He will write. What portfolio do you want? You will write. And I dare say that it was the portfolio that the people asked for that he gave them.
Okay.
When it came to my turn, well, I simply told him that, Your Excellency, I believe that I have value. And I think that you also know that I have value. That is why you're bringing me on board your executive council. I think that you know the ministries, you know the whatever ministries you've created, the ones that are existing. Wherever you find that you might have a challenge and you want someone who can go there and get you results, send me there. And then he said to me, in fact, I think he himself was taken aback because, I mean, I've always been, with the governor even before, he came on board.
Certainly.
And so he said to me, I want someone who can go give me results from the Ministry of Solid Mineral Development. Would you be able to do that for me? And I said, by all means, Your Excellency, with your support, I'm sure that there's no place that you send me to that cannot deliver results. And that's how I found myself in the Ministry of Solid Mineral Development, starting from a very small and obscure office, and then later on to where we are presently. I mean, having been given a portfolio, I didn't think that I needed to wait, to be given an office.
Yeah.
Government has a lot of properties here and there. We had to set out to try to look for one, which we did. By God's grace, we found ourselves in Okoya Rico House. The challenge then was, how do you go from the ground floor to the 6th floor?
Every day.
But we have a lift there that wasn't working at the time. And of course, I understand the situation that we find ourselves. This government came at a time when Cross River State was what you would call on its bended knees. Resources were scarce. Yeah. We had just lost our oil well. Bakassi was no longer there. We were delisted from the oil-producing state. Our level of indebtedness was so high. It was enough to give anyone the goosebump, to scare anyone. But of course, with the experience I had from the legislature, and of course with the leader that I found who was ready to face the challenge squarely, I knew that we could do it. So I was able to get my resources. We fixed the lift in that building, and it was working because it was actually a brand new lift. Of course, we tried to make sure that the gen there was working. Unfortunately, the gen got back. We haven't been able to replace that, and so we've not been able to use the lift. But of course, for me, I found that was an opportunity to exercise. So I was focused more on ensuring that the mandate that the governor gave to me, because I said to him, send me to anywhere where you feel you want to have results.
Yeah. And
he sent me to Pioneer Ministry. That's the biggest thing that, in fact, that's the high point of my achievement, going to a gray area. Okay. Being able to establish something new. And of course, making the kind of impact, that we have made. And 4 years down the line, your boss looks at you and says, you are my best commissioner. That it was my high point, the high moments for me. Okay. And I've been carrying on with that mentality, of ensuring that every day it rings in my head, I want you to get me results. Yeah. And I think that so far so good. We've been doing that, trying to build a culture of a family, being a father to people who are your seniors in the ministry, rather than being a boss, making sure that the ministry, everybody is able to bond together and to take government business as being everybody's business very seriously, okay. Not just as government business and doing it, haphazardly, and so on and so forth. We've had our challenges, undoubtedly, but there are no challenges that are insurmountable. Okay. The greatest challenge will always be resources. Right. But like the governor would say, if you put your soul above your problem, your body will follow. Yeah. So that's the mentality that we've been running with, and I think that so far so good. We're still 5 years down the line, or 6 years going, we're still holding forth.
Inside Cross River, keeping you abreast with all the happenings in the Governor Ben Ayades-led administration. Inside Cross River, showing on this station.
program is Inside Cross River. Honorable Commissioner, let's look at the Ben-Ayade-led administration. No, the governor started by laying down the prosperity framework, and of course, that's the reason why he had to expand the landscape. From your own assessment, would you say that he's on track? Would you say that he's done well?
Well, you know, sometimes when you say, you know, some things that are the truth, people will say, what do you expect him to say? He's a part of that administration. But like the lizard, if no one will praise the governor, I will praise him. And I like posterity to judge everything that we do and everything that we say. What was the debt portfolio when Governor Ayade resumed office as governor? At what stage was Cross River? What was our internally generated revenue and what was coming in from the federal? Okay. Now put all of that together. What is the wage bill? What was the wage bill of Cross River State before he lifted embargo on employment? What is the wage bill now? Now put all of that side by side with the things that he set out to do. You know, every governor has his own style.
Yeah.
Every governor has his own style. There are governors who want to follow the bureaucracy. Ayade doesn't want to follow the bureaucracy. When he wants things done, he wants them done now, you know, and he wants it to run and ensure that those things are done. Results. So people might look at that and say, I know this thing is not done properly and so on and so forth. But the question we should ask ourselves, are we getting results? Now, considering all of that, from the north to the south to the central, look at the things that he has put in place. Okay. Is it the industries? Let's look at them and let us look at the fact that when those industries are completed, like most of them are beginning to, you know, we're winding down some of them now. What value would those, you know, factories bring to Cross River State? There'll be job generation, creation. There'll be, you know, our IGR definitely will be shot up, you know, and so on and so forth. Many people will say, all of these industries, we have industries in the past, you know, and they didn't do very well and all of that. Government has no business with industry. But let me also tell you this, that even the private sector needs government to be able to function. Yeah. Without government, the private sector cannot survive. And of course, there are plans to ensure that all of those industries, I for one would not ask that civil servants go and run it. I would like to see them privatized. So that the purpose for which those industries were built, you know, the value, you know, will be derived. And then over time, they'll be sustained. You know, so side by side, considering what is coming in as federal allocation, what we're having as Nigeria, and don't forget that Nigeria is, like the Minister of Finance said, is in some form of recession as we speak. When we went into recession as a country, Cross River State did not go into recession. Why? Because of the courage of one man to ensure that the system, you know, was kept alive, you know, was kept going. Yeah. So, if you look at all of the things that I've mentioned now, you know, and I don't want to, I mean, you already know, if you begin to mention from the rice seedling factory to the garment factory to Kalashika that has just been completed, to the pharmaceutical company that is working day and night to ensure that we commission, to the noodles factory that the government is working day and night to ensure that, you know, it's commissioned, you know, to the cocoa factory, to the toothpick factory, you know, to the rice mill. You can mention them. Every one of these factories and industries is targeted at ensuring that value is added. Yeah. I know what is happening in Bekwara right now, you know, with the oil factory, granite factory. You know, so if you tie them all together, I believe that God helping, and like we always pray that the window should open over Cross River State so that our resources can come to enable the governor, you know, finish, you know, all of this project like he's always determined to. He'll always tell us that he wants to see them to logical conclusion because he doesn't want a situation where his successor comes and then has to struggle with having to complete this and not complete that. You know, so I think that on the whole, you may like the governor's style, you may not like it, but the question that I always say, are you getting results? Yes.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're getting results, that is what should matter to our people.
Okay. Focus is solid minerals in Cross River State. What is the update on the ministry? And we have we are here interfacing with the commissioner. Now, Honorable Commissioner, you know, there was a time, I think in 2018 or 2019 or so, when you brought a team of experts to go from one local government to the other to find out the kind of, you know, precious tools that we have in each of our local government areas in Cross River State. Now, how many years down the line, what has been done since that survey was carried out?
Yeah, we've done a lot. That's why I was talking about the fact that now we are interested in driving investment,
Okay.
you know, into the sector. From that time till now, if you look at the number of investors that have come in this sector, you know, one of the greatest challenges that we have is that the solid mineral sector is a sector where you require a whole lot of resources to set up. It's not it's not one of those industries that you would just say, or one of those sectors that you would just say, we can set up shop now, even if we have 20,000 naira or 1 million or 10 million. Requires a whole lot. I know of investors who, as we speak, are talking to about 4 banks to be able to raise capital to come in and set up something very, very seriously. Down the line, the Cross River State government, led by the governor, have been trying to give concession to Giant Cement, you know, in a lot of areas, just so as to enable them also, you know, take off. The same thing that we're doing currently with, like I talked about, Ibeto in Ochuma, and of course, Rimco Mining, that is interested in putting up a smelter for the lead processing. Just at the EPZ here, as a result of some of the work that we've done, the field of Diamond had just set up, you know, a processing plant to, you know, process the lead from its own field. Right now, I'm talking to a team a team from Japan that are interested in the processed lead. I want to see if I can link them up with the field of Diamond to, so that they can buy from them, you know, and all of that. So I started by saying that before now what we just know was the aggregate, which is the chippings, you know, and all of that, and limestone, which of course was only Lafarge, Unisem now Lafarge, you know, that was a key player. But from the work that we've done, we've put the state in the solid mineral map of the world, you know. We've put the state in the solid mineral map of the world. Unfortunately, COVID hasn't allowed us to do a lot of travels, and we haven't had a lot of virtual meetings in this sector internationally, because it's not the kind of you know, this mining sector is not the sector where you say, oh, let's go on a virtual, you know, to hold a conference. Yeah. Like we normally have the PDAC, you know, in Canada we normally have the Indaba, mining Indaba, you know, in either Australia, and of course the one in South Africa and all of that. You know, we've not been able to have all of that because follow-up meetings would have been there. And even the investors that we've been able to talk to and we have been able to market the state to, have also not been able to come in, you know, because of travel restrictions here and there. We are believing that this year will be a better year, and once God helps us and normalcy is restored across the globe, we'll see a lot more activities in the sector.
Right, so I want to also know, beyond these private investors coming in from the international scene and all of that, what about the federal government? Is there a way the federal government can actually aid Cross River State government to go into the exploration of these precious stones?
As we speak, the federal government is in the process of building a plant in Cross River. The federal government had also given us a mining buying center in Ogoja along the Yala Road, which we are yet to develop.
Okay.
Because once we do that, it will also help. There are a lot of funds that we're trying to talk to see how our artisanal and small scale miners can tap into. Again, luckily for us, the person who is in charge of artisanal mining at the federal level is Patrick Ojeka, who happens to be a son of Cross River State Director from Cross River State, from Yala specifically. Those funds have not yet been disbursed. They're not like the CBN thing that is going on in agriculture. The federal government considers agriculture and solid minerals. They take them very seriously because they believe that those are the two sectors that can actually bail out. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you know that the solid mineral sector and the agri sector were the sectors that bailed out the federal government when they went into recession the first time. So definitely you want to see more investment in this sector. There's been a lot of investment in the agricultural sector. You see all kinds of small loans going from CBN to various sectors in agriculture. I think that very soon also we'll do the same with the solid mineral sector. I'm just hoping that by next week I can go to Abuja to have a meeting with the French embassy, who are interested in funding artisanal miners in the solid mineral sector in Cross River. Hopefully by next week I should be able to go and talk to their trade office and see what we can attract from that sector. But of course the federal government is interested in ensuring that the solid mineral sector is taken seriously, and Cross River State, I assure you, would always benefit. Every time we've had to attend the National Council on Mining, the position of Cross River State has always been the position of Nigeria. Luckily my colleagues have a lot of confidence in me, and when we go, I try to get them to say, look, these are the things that I think that we should do, and I'm always getting their buy-in, and they will always say, okay, Commissioner for Council, you put the position of all of the states, and our position has always been the position of Nigeria. So we've been a leading light in the solid mineral sector since I assumed office as the Partner Commissioner for Solid Mineral Development for Cross River States.
I want to also look at the issue of corporate social responsibility. In the previous administration, we had Dancer, agro-allied industry in Oban, that it was doing so well. At some point, they had to exit. I want to also find out, for those who are still in operations in Cross River State, are they even fulfilling their obligation of taking care of the corporate social responsibility in the communities where they are carrying out their operations?
In fairness to the operators in this field, I believe that virtually every operator is doing so.
Okay.
Now, some may not. I had an engagement with the community from Iwi, trying to see what is it that the operators in that sector, around where they operate, what is it that they've done. And I've always frowned about the fact that people should not be collecting, be monetizing whatever infrastructure that a company should have put together. Yeah. If you go to Animeje, my community, you'll see what Wilma has done in terms of school, the school they've built there. If you look at that structure, what they've done with that school, and you look at what we had before, you'll see that there's a difference. There's a standard that they put together. And so if a company says, look, we agree in a community development agreement to do X, Y, Z, and then the chiefs will say, okay, just monetize it and bring, the likelihood is that that money will be given, it will be mismanaged. Lafarge is one company that I can tell you that when it comes to corporate social responsibilities, they are carrying out their corporate social responsibility. It may not be to the degree that the communities want. Okay. It may not be to the degree that the communities want, but you know, we're also facing a downturn, you know, in the financial sector in the world. Every company is seriously hit by this COVID pandemic, and so people have trying to redefine their operations and so on and so forth. So if you take all of these things into consideration, I believe that in our sector, I think that the companies are doing their very best.
Right. So, but is there any measure that has been put in place to ensure that these companies do they need from government? Taking your ministry into consideration, for instance, is there anything like that in existence?
I have a department that when I came in, I created.
Okay.
That department, their sole responsibility is to move, from community to community,
Okay.
from company to company. Find out what is it that they've done in terms of corporate social responsibility.
Okay.
Look at the things, if they're infrastructures, find out whether those infrastructures are durable,
Okay.
whether they're infrastructures that can stand the test of time, and so far so good. The report that I've received is encouraging. As things improve, we intend to do much more.
I would like you to let me in on the kind of legacy you want to leave behind, being that you are the pioneer commissioner of the Ministry of Solid Minerals in Cross River State, in terms of the kind of structure you intend to leave behind. What would that thing be that you come to mind as the pioneer commissioner?
The level of investment that we're able to attract to the solid mineral sector, the quality of investment,
Okay.
would create jobs naturally. The more jobs that you can create, that a sector can create, the more joy that you can derive. Everywhere I go, when I look at the infrastructure that companies are putting together in the mining sector, when I look at the kind of investment that is coming, and that's why I've always emphasized as I go around the communities, please, when people come to you and tell you they want the consent, to come to your areas to pray, as excited as you may be, get back to us. We like to do a due diligence on those companies to be sure that they have the resources and they have the capital and they have the capacity to be able to actually carry out, the operation they want to do in your area.
Okay.
Not just giving people consent, they come, get the license, cover it and keep over the years, going to look for people that will come and buy it from them. So for me, I want to leave a legacy. The kind of legacy that I want to leave is one that when you go around Cross River and you see the quality of investment and you see the quality of resources, the plan, the quality of jobs that this sector has been able to create during my time, when people look back, they should be able to say, this commissioner did well, and that's why we're able to have X, Y, Z. That for me is the greatest legacy that anyone can leave.
All right, that's interesting. Okay, so let's move to the political scene. I would like to take, because you are a two-term member of the House of Assembly, and of course you've been following the political process tenaciously as a two-term commissioner as well in the state. Now, what do you think is happening with the People's Democratic Party that obviously has been said over the years that it's a family? Is PDP still a family in Cross River?
This is one area that I wish I could avoid discussing. Is PDP still a family in Cross River State?
Yeah.
Well, I believe that we're still a family.
Okay.
And the head of that family is Governor Ben Ayade, the district governor of Cross River State.
Yeah.
Now, in every family, you'd always have what you call either rebels or people who are recalcitrant. It doesn't remove the fact that, we're a family. Now, don't forget, for those people who choose to say, give us our inheritance and let us go and do whatever we want to do with it.
Yeah.
And so when they squander the very inheritance, they now, like the prodigal son, say, oh, instead of staying here to suffer, let me return back to my father. He will accommodate me. I recall that in this state, there is nobody, either in the state assembly, at the federal national assembly, or at the local government, who is elected today, who didn't receive the endorsement of Governor Ben Ayade. Nobody. And I challenge any member of the PDP family in Cross River State to tell me that what I said It's not true. I know that there was a time in this, as we went into the elections in 2019, there are a lot of my colleagues, a lot of people who wanted to contest elections, very many. And I dare say that if they contested those elections, they contested primary, they would defeat many of our people who are in the National Assembly. But in the wisdom of the governor, he said, you know what, everybody stand down. We are no longer at the center. We need our brothers from the National Assembly to return back so that they can be strengthened, so that in future they can bring something back to Cross River State. Now, unfortunately, what I have noticed is that rather than go to bring back something to Cross River State, people are interested more in the office that they will occupy in the next 2 years, rather than wait for what the culture where we'll sit down to discuss at the federal level, federal constituency level, at the local government level, at the state constituency levels, and so on, to say, okay, what do we do? How do we put this family together to continue to make it strong? How do we move it forward? We've had a situation where some people believe that the leader of the party must be undermined. People are calling the leader of the party all kinds of names and all of that. I believe in one thing. If God does not endorse a leader can never emerge.
Okay.
Ayade didn't become governor by his own volition. He became governor because God said, at this time, I found Ayade worthy to be governor of Cross River State, and he made him governor.
Yeah.
When you set out to fight a governor, you're fighting God. The scripture is very clear about that. Many people want to, read meaning and begin to twist what I've just said. Oh, I've said Ayade is God. In any case, as I sit down here, I'm a God. Because I was created in God's image.
Image and likeness.
And likeness.
Yeah.
I carry the DNA of Christ. And it's because he said, let us make man in our own image. So we are small gods. So Ayade became governor because God said, at this time, Ben Ayade, my son, you will lead Cross River State as governor. That's what happened. So leadership will emerge per time. Is this something that you fight for? Okay. Not something that you say you must pull down the house. This house must collapse on our head, because my interest. And it's usually not about self. I can tell you this. My people wanted me to go back to the House of Assembly to do a third term. The government of the day said, you know what, we don't think that people should do third term. People should be able to move to here and move to there and all of that. And I said, okay, you know what, I don't want this family to crumble.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring down the house. I decided to stand down for someone else to take over from me. We didn't crash the house because of the fact that my interest wasn't in the fore. No, it was what was the interest of the family.
Okay.
At the time when people were also fighting to destabilize the party, we have delegate lists in Abuja being changed and so on. When we fought and brought back that, we stood by our leader to make sure that nobody messed up our leader. We stood by our leader at the time.
Sure.
We said, no, nobody can mess up this leader. Some of us are very convinced that that is the right thing to do, to put the family together. We all can't be leaders. You can only have one captain in a ship at a time.
Yeah.
And by the special grace of God, that captain for today is Excellency Governor Ben Ayade. I think that whatever differences that there are, people should just put them aside and think about first the interest of the family and come to stand with the family, encourage the leader, this same leader who had all the structures before, and use that structure to better the interests of the people in the National Assembly, took them back, gave them automatic tickets. At that time, he wasn't an emperor, he wasn't a dictator, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. That same structure produced them. That same structure ensured that nobody challenged them. I don't think that it's proper for people to cast aspersion at our leader, call him names, and do the kind of things that we're saying. But like we all say, all politics is local. We're here.
All right. I like that. We are here. Okay. In spite of the fragmentation, and of course the battle for 2023 and all of that, and the showcase of interest and all of that, if you were the governor, how would you resolve this? Or what recommendation can you give on that?
Well, if we had, primaries, and some people back in Abuja felt that they were not, it is the list that they wrote in Abuja that should see the light of day, and not the one that was collectively done back home here.
Yeah.
I think that the best way to go is for the National Working Committee to say, okay, you know what, Cross River, let's take another look at Cross River State. Whether A was right or B was right, we'll put everything aside. Let's go back for a new process. I think that that's the process that we would like to see. You know, I would, for once, want the National Working Committee, you know, to take the bold step to say for the Cross River State PDP, because the PDP in Cross River State has always been stable. We've been in power from 1999 till date. We've been a family. I don't think that National Working Committee should be the ones to help us destroy the party, help us bury the party. I told a friend of mine jokingly the other day that, well, we are PDP and we remain PDP. However, if there are people who want us to bury PDP, I will also go and get my own coffin and keep, so that whatever part I'm able to carry and put, I will put and bury it.
It will be a collective burial.
Yeah, but we don't want to see PDP buried in Cross River State. We want to see PDP continue as a family.
Okay.
And so we want the National Working Committee to ensure that the proper thing is done for the PDP family in Cross River State.
All right, so beyond...
Of course, under the leadership of Governor Ben Ayade.
All right, so beyond the states, the PDP as a state, as a family. Okay, I want you to like maybe briefly talk about the Northern Cross River State by-election, senatorial by-election. That, of course, I know beyond everything that is happening, Senator Ode is sitting pretty at the National Assembly.
Yes.
But then the drama, the campaign of calumny, the dramatization. What is your own opinion on that? You
know, this whole thing is, for me, it's just a joke taken too far. We're in Cross River State, for crying out loud. Let's say the truth. It was Odnano Danfode who said that conscience is an open wound and only the truth can heal it. Let's say the truth for once.
Right.
A primary was held. Everyone who wanted to contest the primaries was at the venue of the primaries.
Yeah.
At the point when some people saw that the primary wasn't going their way, they left. Because maybe they decided that there was another macabre dance that they wanted to go and dance somewhere. The process was concluded in open, in the open for everyone to see. Cameras, phones, laptops, and so on. People used in recording this process. It was concluded the winner emerged. We went for an election. That same person who won in the primaries of the PDP emerged as senator. Come on. I think that, sometimes there are some fight that you think that, you're putting up that you call it fight that that just becomes funny. It's for want of a better word, it's sickening to realize that any cross-Riverian would want to challenge the process that led to that election. It's not the opposition parties, it's from the same family. It's quite sickening. It's sickening. If we all decide to act like tough men, then maybe we won't even have a state.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. Every human being has two natures in them. Okay. The animalistic one and the one that brings about sanity. Mm-hmm. And most times, we now wear the one of sanity because that's what God wants, peace, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. The fact that the governor, decided that he was supporting someone, that same governor supported everybody who is in the National Assembly today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I challenge anybody in the National Assembly, or even in the State Assembly or in the local government that would say that, oh, we didn't have the endorsement. When I sit down and I hear someone say, the governor cannot pick for us, the governor cannot do that. Come on now. Come on. The governor didn't pick anybody. All he simply said, and the governor is an individual. He has the right to say this is the person I want to support.
Of course.
What is wrong? He has the right to say this is the person I want to support. So if you're not okay with that, you go to the field. People went to the field, an election was conducted, primary was conducted, someone won, election was conducted, someone won. Someone has been sworn in, and we're hearing all kinds of. I just pray that the judiciary in Nigeria will not allow itself to be dragged on the mud. I believe that at the end of the day, justice will always, the right justice, will always prevail.
All right.
Inside Cross River, keeping you abreast with all the happenings in the Governor Ben Ayades-led administration. Inside Cross River, showing on this station.
The program remains Inside Cross River, and we've been having a great time interacting with Right Honorable George Ogbeneche, Commissioner for Solid Minerals, Cross River State. Right from when Governor Ayade assumed office, he made it clear that he's running a 95% system of government, where 5% will work for 95%. And okay, so we now have just a 5% adding value for the remaining 95%. So would you now say that the 39 ministries that the governor, that we have in Cross River State, including the ones that were just created, are adding value? How would you assess your colleagues as the chairman of Commissioners Forum in Cross River State? Are they on track?
I'm just a member of the Cross River State Executive Council. And yes, my colleagues elected me to be, their leader, but not to judge them.
To assess.
Certainly not to judge them. You assess a man according to the responsibility that you give the man.
Okay.
I believe that going by the responsibility that the governor has given to the commissioners, I believe that they have delivered.
Okay.
If they're not, it is for the big man to decide to say, okay, you know what? This is not okay with me, make adjustments, and I think that at any point that the governor believes that, certain persons are not adding value, I think he will do the needful.
Okay.
I think that the governor has, he has an idea of what he wanted from every of the ministry. Now, unfortunately also, resources hasn't allowed us to function the way that everyone would have loved to function. That's the truth. If you ask the governor, I'm sure he also will tell you that he hasn't also been able to get the kind of value that he wanted to have from the 39 ministries. Because of course, resources are very scarce. And so, but one way or the other, I think people are doing what they were invited to do as commissioners. And I think that the governor is the one who has the final say as to whether I have performed or not, as to whether he wants to tinker with the cabinet, as to whether he wants the cabinet to continue with the number or go down. At any time that the governor finds that the ministries are, not delivering what he wants, I believe that His Excellency will do the right thing. He will do what he wants to do.
All right, so let's have your last word now on the Ministry of Solid Minerals. For those who don't know much about the ministry, and of course for those who want to invest, and for all perseverance out there that might want to partner with you one way or the other, what is your last word to them?
The Cross River State Ministry of Solid Mineral Development was created to harness the entire solid mineral sector in Cross River State. It was meant to be like a warehouse coordinating activities happening in that sector. We're not supposed to interfere with what people are doing. We're also meant to drive investment, into the sector. Unfortunately, we see that it is more of foreigners and people from outside Cross River State who are interested in this sector. Yes, it does take a lot of capital to be able to get involved in the solid mineral sector anywhere in the world. But I want to enjoin Cross Riverians. 1, 2, 3, 4 people can come together, put resources together, and set up, one facility in the solid mineral sector. Luckily for us, we have over 38 solid minerals that are very viable in the world, that people can get engaged in. I think that if Cross Riverians come together, they can put resources together. That's the way the world is going now. Nobody really has. If they talk about Dangote, Dangote is not just one person's investment. It's just that one person started. There are resources from here and from there. If you hear of Boa Group, you hear of Giant Cement, you hear of all of these companies. It's people bringing resources from here and there and put it together, to make sure that those industries or companies run. So, Cross Riverians, I join you and encourage you to please look at this sector. This is still a very, very fresh, very viable, very virgin area that if you invest your resources, you're sure to get some kind of benefits. You can put resources together and do so.
Okay, so that's how far we can go today on this edition of the program Inside Cross River. You just heard from the Commissioner for Solid Minerals, Cross River State. He has said a whole lot of things concerning the ministry. And if you want to be a part of the process, please visit them at the Kwaripo House. You have people there to attend to you. And, one thing I have to say is the fact that for Governor Ayede to finish strong by 2023, he will need our own collective contribution. If you are a commissioner, if you are a special advisor, whatever you are in the Ben Ayede administration, just focus on adding value. Let us support Governor Ayede because it's just one man, it's just one governor. All of us are going to collectively take Cross River from where it is to where it has to be. My name is Beatrice Akpala. Don't be reactive, always be proactive. Be a part of the solution and not the problems. I'll see you next week with another explosive edition. Bye-bye.
Inside Cross River, keeping you abreast with all the happenings in the Governor Ben Ayede's led administration. Inside Cross River, showing on this station.